Hi, in this video I want to talk about value equations and pain and how it doesn't really matter what's causing the pain that you're experiencing. It's pain no matter what. There's more or less pain. There's not any other kind of pain equation. Um, you're experiencing the pain, and there's only the most reasonable thing to expect is that what you're experiencing would be the exact same thing when experienced through someone else. And if it's not exactly the same thing based on the illness itself, it's the exact same headache. So it doesn't matter if you have more tolerance, it's the exact same headache based on the feelings that you're having, based on, say, a headache you have compared to someone else. So your headache may be a 10 on the scale based on headaches, based on the symptoms, or whatever it may be. Um, but the pain that you're experiencing is the same value, therefore it's the same headache. So it doesn't matter if you can tolerate more of a headache, just make the headache all that more painful, and that's when the pain is relevant. It doesn't matter how severe the headache is in and of itself, it just matters that you're experiencing the same or a different amount of pain. When you're experiencing, and it's about more or less pain, it's more or less pain, there's no other equation of value, there's only more or less pain. And when you're experiencing that pain, it doesn't matter what in and of itself the, say, headache, as I'm using as an example, is. Its only value for which you can measure the pain that you're experiencing, or any kind of value that you're experiencing, is through your own sentient experience. The headache doesn't necessarily have value in and of itself. It has, the value is based on the harm it's doing to something that can feel. And if you can feel, that's when the pain and the reaction is really occurring. So the headache doesn't exist by itself, and it uses you as its experience, sort of like lopping off a limb or something along those lines. The limb is not an active thing that exists. It's just the pain that you're experiencing, the value you're experiencing through the pain by you no longer, for the means for which you lost your arm, or whatever it is, or something along those lines. The same thing with something like a headache, which is a good use as is good to use as an example, because headaches often are seen as very subjective experiences. Obviously every pain you feel is considered subjective, but there's no reason to believe that, since I've mentioned more or less pain, to say it's the exact same headache. I'm feeling this amount of pain, and it wouldn't be the exact same headache unless you're reacting in the exact same way I'm reacting, or a similar way. You're not experiencing the exact same headache, because a headache doesn't exist really on its own. It exists through you and the feelings that you the feelings that you have, and the feelings that you're experiencing through or the means of your physical being that you're experiencing, that and those symptoms. So it's only the exact same headache in terms of your sentient experience, at least, when you're feeling more or less pain. So it doesn't matter if the symptoms are slightly different, or this, that, or the other thing. If you're experiencing the similar amount of pain, that's the only time you can really say it's the same headache that you're experiencing, regardless of what your tolerance is, or how much you can tolerate, or what you can experience more or less than another person before you find you start to react more, or you find it unbearable, or whatever means you may find. But unless it's the exact same thing, obviously more or less, I guess that's one way of looking at it. If I'm going to evaluate my own statements, that's one way of looking at it when it comes to more or less pain. Doesn't really matter what causes the pain, headache or not, really doesn't matter. It's either more or less, and generally speaking, you can tell that by way of reactions, how you react, how much agony or how much comfort you're in. Your experience is the exact same, if regardless of what's causing it, if you're in a similar state. And that's one thing to say, is all this stuff does homogenize, if that's a way of putting it, for a lack of a better term or word, that it's doesn't really matter what's causing the pain. It's either more or less pain, and based on reactions or whatever may be your own sentient experience, reactions when it comes to pain, or lack of reaction when it comes to comfort, it's a sign that it doesn't matter if you're what you're experiencing it through, or anything else. It just matters that it's more or less pain. It doesn't matter what's causing it. It's just your sentient experience, and it might as well be the exact same experience, because the reaction is more or less the same. Is regardless, you're getting your satisfaction through sex, this person's getting their satisfaction through eating a meal. Doesn't really matter in the end. It just matters that you're in a comfortable state of mind, because there's only more comfortable or less comfortable, regardless of what's causing it. It doesn't really matter, because it's the content feeling and the not content feeling are the only thing that really exists. And by whichever means you satisfy your tensions to get there, it's just a matter of satisfying those tensions. In many cases, since we're all satisfying similar tensions, it's almost irrelevant to what's, because since we're so similar to begin with, the basic function and foundation of our biology is so similar, it's almost pointless to even point out that it doesn't matter what the pain is or experience, because we all, generally speak, drive on the same thing, unless except for our frivolous addictions that we find based on our circumstance. The general foundation and function is the same. The drives are, generally speaking, the same. How much you feel those drives, how much of addiction you have, obviously are different, but it's about the satisfaction of those things, not the means of satisfying them or what you're satisfying. It's just a matter that you're satisfied in the end. So it's about your satisfaction more than anything. And I guess the other thing I want to mention before I end this video, it's only one video this week, and I haven't been making as many videos lately, so I apologize if that means anything. It's not like anyone's really watching my videos anyway, but yeah, I've really covered most all the topics, and if I want to start making more videos, it's going to have to be on topics that I think of that are going to be few and far between, that I haven't covered, that are meaningful and not pointless, or it's going to be topics or videos that I'm reacting to or responding to, because that's what I'm going to have to start doing to make at least this channel more relevant. Otherwise, it's not going to really get anywhere. But anyway, regardless of that, I'm just trying to think. The other topic I wanted to mention was, regardless of the more or less pain, it's the same thing in you. It's relevant in a way, but it's the same pain in the person experiencing the pain, based on reaction or whatever the sentient thing is feeling. Like I mentioned, the headache that you're experiencing, it's the exact same headache in the other person as it is in you, regardless of more or less pain, but it's the same headache, so there's no reason to expect more or less value. And that comes down to the person feeling more or less pain. So that's where you can put the more or less pain. That's when it's relevant. When you have the exact same headache in someone else as you have the exact same symptoms, but the person can tolerate it more, or deserves the headache more. They need to, if they deserve it more, they need it more, it's going to make everything better by giving them the headache. If it's going to have a chain reaction on the world in a positive way, then yes, you give that person the headache. That's when the more or less pain comes in. You make these value equations that are impossible to make, because you can't really make these value equations except from personal accounts of what a person can tolerate more than the other person, except for when it's obvious. Obviously, it's better to do this, sort of like making the decision to nuke Hiroshima and Nagasaki or not. It was hard to make the value equation of what would happen exactly afterwards, but you made a value equation, and you, regardless of the intent, a value equation was come to, and was made. It was come to, and then you, based on whatever a person's motivations may be, and your expectations or anticipations based on that are only relevant beforehand, and afterwards, what happens, happens. And that's one of the things that just happens. So, yes, it's the exact same headache in someone else as it is in you. It's either more or less pain. The experience doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what's causing the experience. It doesn't matter it doesn't matter about any of those things. It doesn't what's causing it. It just matters that you're experiencing more or less. And there's no reason to believe that your headache now wouldn't be the exact same as someone else's. That's why you have to make the personal count of more or less pain based on reactions and mutual understanding and mutual conversation or whatever it may be, to understand who deserves it more, making the probabilistic outcome of what may be best for you and everyone else, every living sentient being, that gives this world value to begin with? What would be better for everyone to experience this or that? And sometimes it's very hard to make those equations, but you have to do your best with what you know, and you do that with that information what you will to make the best decision you can. And that's what, generally speaking, comes down to, is making the best decision for everyone. But then again, for everyone is a hard thing for even a human to do, because you can't really figure out the whole value equation based on one event. You can understand the implications. Yes, if I do this, this means this, but you don't necessarily know every single outcome that will happen. You only know to a certain extent what will happen, to what a certain extent, what will happen. And you can have an expectation, but that doesn't mean it's always going to happen the exact same way. You can know, generally speaking, it's going to go in this direction, but you don't necessarily know what's going to happen. So that doesn't mean we can't make the choices. It just means that don't always expect what you were hoping for, or what you think may have happened, would have happened, or whatever it may be. So let's see, did I miss anything? Let's make sure. It's already a long video, 11 minutes and 16 seconds, 17 seconds, 18 seconds, 20 seconds. Anyway, yes, there's no reason to believe it would be the exact same thing. Just insert your headache in someone else, it would be the exact same headache. And if it's not the exact same headache, then just make it so that it's the exact same amount of pain that you experience, then therefore it's the same headache. Because we're all going to experience the same on a level, regardless of what it may be, a certain amount of pain. Even though not all of us reach a certain amount of pain or suffering, we'll reach, we feel similar levels, generally speaking, throughout the day, between living creatures. That we're within a boundary. All of us are within a certain boundary where we can understand certain feelings and certain reactions. And just because a person does something differently or does something that you don't do, doesn't mean that they haven't experienced something you haven't experienced. Just because they have different vices or react differently to you doesn't mean that they don't have similar feelings. Obviously, there's a range for which we can all find a median that we all at least experience, and that median is something that we've all experienced, and it's been the exact same amount of value of pain or comfort that we've experienced, even though not all of us have experienced, the high ends or low ends entirely across the spectrum. Not everyone's experienced all those things. So it's one of those things where there's a general level where we can all understand. There's a boundary. There's at least one or 2 points where every human being's experienced something, and the same exact level of comfort. And then there's the being very content and not being very content. And you can argue that many people have been on very far-reaching side on both sides of those, but not necessarily in all circumstances. But like I mentioned, it doesn't matter what's causing it. It doesn't matter it just matters that you're experiencing the pain. So that's more important than anything. So, did I miss anything? I don't know if I missed anything. I don't know. I think that's really all I need to mention, though. Sorry if it was a little slow and incoherent, but I guess it's a change of pace, right? It's not a fast video. It's a kind of slower video. A little more babbly, but it's babbly but slower. And a little less incoherent in a way, but it's not incoherent in the way that I don't know where I'm going. It's directionless. It's based on notes I wrote a couple of weeks ago that I can barely remember anyway. But it's, or was it last week? I don't know. But it's something I've already mentioned. It's hard to find different angles on a lot of these subjects, but I try my best. So yeah, anyway, just insert your headache, or whatever it may be, the pain that you're experiencing into someone else, and it'd be the exact same headache. And there's no reason to believe otherwise, except from our understanding and experience of being a sentient being in reality, to expect any other thing. Unless the person says, I'll deal with it, it's the best for everyone, and I can deal with it better than other people, there's no reason to believe otherwise, because you can just say, or based on the reactions, or whatever it may be, there's no reason to believe that because you're the same there's no reason to believe there's no reason to believe that a different the same reaction means something different. So the same reaction you can almost just reasonably expect to be the same amount of pain, because it's, regardless of what it is, it's the reaction, it's the pain that you experience more than anything. Be it the headache or something different. Insert your headache into someone else and it'd be the exact same thing. And if not, you just increase the amount of pain until it's the exact same thing in terms of value that you're experiencing. So if that makes any sense. I just hope I got covered it in the way I perceived I would cover this subject. So, tick tock, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Yeah, I think that's all it is. It'd be the exact same headache in someone else. Just imagine it that way. So yeah, anyway, that's all I want to say. So thank you, and until next time. If I have anything else to mention on the subject, like I always say, I'll mention it in another video. So thank you, and until next time, bye.